I'm Hela, Odin's firstborn, the rightful heir to the throne and the goddess of death.
You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
How do you think your ancestors got these? You think they paid a fair price? Or did they take it like they took everything else?
I did not break your rules. They simply bent to my power.
It captures the African American experience.
Welcome, internets, to another episode of Views from the 616, the blackest MCU podcast in the multiverse, powered by For All Nerds, where we discuss everything in the MCU from the perspective of people of color. And it is one of your hosts, Tatiana King, aka the Wicked Witch of the West View, coldest winter soldier ever, Tesseract Thompson, and Schrodinger's Cap. And I'm joined by my very clear-skinned co-host.
Thank you very much. It's your boy, DJ Ben Amin, a.k.a. Brother Voodoo Child. Holla, holla, holla. John Walk It Out, the Off-White Panther, the Power Toker. We was Kangs, a Thera menace to society.
Yes.
And we back.
And we are back to talk all things episode 5 of Loki on Disney Plus. Titled Journey into Mystery. Before we get into things, just once again want to thank everyone for showing up and showing out with us. Thank you for all of the support. Everybody on the Twitch right now, twitch.tv/forallnerds. The Twitch fam in the chat going nuts as usual. And everyone who has hit us up on the Patreon, patreon.com/forallnerds. Your rewards are coming. Check those mailboxes very soon, every week this month. And thank you to everyone who's hit up TeePublic, our merch page, tpublic.com/stores/forallnerds. And you can get some beautiful merch like the one I'm wearing, as well as our Views from the 616 logo and more beautiful, especially that limited edition Safe Negro mug that Ben has holding up. Make sure you're on twitch.tv to make sure you see us. So now that we're here, go ahead, Ben.
Hold on, though. Before we get into that, you did mention the Patreon.
Yeah, I did mention the Patreon.
So right now, on patreon.com, for all of those who, patreon.com/forallnerds, let me correct myself, for all of those who are one of the fam on there.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right now, after you finish watching us, of course, because you're live on Twitch with us, you can go over to patreon.com/forallnerds and watch the Kate Herron interview with Views from the 616. You know the one with that clip.
I'm so excited I'm sneezing. Oh, shit.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Tight. All that. But you know the one that's blowing up all over the internets right now? You've seen the clip, where Kate talks about Chris Hemsworth being the voice of Throg. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, the exclusive clip that only we got, that one.
That one. The whole interview is now available on patreon.com/forallnerds.
Excellent.
Go get it.
Thank you. Go get that. So now let's jump into episode 5 of Loki, Journey into Mystery. And here is your basic plot. Who's behind the curtain? Well, you're going to have to wait until next week because we damn sure are going deeper into the void on this one. On one of the most action-packed, Easter egg-filled, and full-on pull on the heartstring episodes of Loki, Loki meets the Loki Vengers. Sylvie puts the pressure on Ravonna, and Mobius, mother effing Mobius, returns just in time to get lost and found. Journey into mystery with us as we break it all down on this episode of Views from 616.
Mobius, mother effing Mobius.
That's actually what the M stands for in the middle.
That's what we're going with over here. And you saw I had to make that edit. Shout outs to YouTube and y'all intro.
Absolutely, absolutely. And let's start off with the themes of the episode. And the first theme is the title of the episode, which is Journey into Mystery. As we open up this scene, the very first opening shot, you notice it starts with this twisting, upside down, kind of very cinematic, directorial touch to it, directorial flair. Thank you, Kate Herron.
Remember Black Panther when they were walking into the throne room, that same upside down when Killmonger was coming into the throne room.
And typically, and Ben Amin can attest to this, typically that type of shot, twisting or even starting upside down, typically signifies confusion or a journey or walking through something unknown, even something maybe wrong. What else you have to say about that, Ben? I mean,
Also, usually signifies I flip you. I flip you for real. When something gets flipped, when the world you were in has been turned upside down, like when Killmonger walks into the throne room and turns Wakanda upside down.
right.
And also, it seems that in this shot, we're going through the mysteries or the illusions that that have been discarded now. Like the timekeeper's head laying down there. Of course, once again, Kang. The whole TVA, we go through the air wall. And so it's just breaking that down to, as we are coming down, we're stripping away these illusions and finding out who is behind it all as we come down to the end.
Indeed. The title of the episode also refers to the 1952 comic number 85 of the same name, Journey into Mystery, which actually features the first appearances of Asgard, Loki, and Heimdall.
Yep.
And it also refers to a 2010s run written by Kieran Gillen, the God, which stars Loki having been reincarnated as a child.
Yes. And okay, first off, about the original Journey into Mystery, that was published by Atlas Comics, which was what Marvel was called before they were Marvel. And Journey into Mystery basically was Thor's comic until it became Thor, I think, after they turned to Marvel. For a long time, it was just Journey into Mystery. Like, it was other stuff. That's how Marvel was back then. Like, Spider-Man appears in Amazing Fantasy 16, but the first 15 Amazing Fantasies are about all kind of other stuff. And then Spider-Man hits in Amazing Fantasy 16, and then Spider-Man starts appearing in that until he gets his own book a few months later. Same with Thor. Thor just stayed Journey into Mystery for a long time, and that way, later on when Kieran brought it back, it was a familiar brand for Marvel, Journey into Mystery.
Yeah. And this episode is just a huge collision. I mean, talk about what Ravana calls the void, right? A collision of all time. This episode's a collision of all Marvel, like comics, MCU, maybe a little bit of fan fiction in there. Like, it's just so much thrown into one space. Journey into Mystery also refers to the characters themselves on the show. All of them are on a journey into mystery of some way, shape, or form. They were all, at least in TVA, were just told that they are actually variants that were essentially kidnapped from their timeline. Nobody knows the truth of it all. People are accepting various levels of mystery in order to find out the truth. We even have, like, for example, Mobius and Ravana. They want to know the truth about their roles in the TVA and the truth about where they come from, and to varying degrees. Loki and Sylvie, they're literally about to step into the unknown when we see them at that very last scene when they go into that area that's been guarded by Eliath.
Also, the Loki Avengers, as we're calling them. We're going with that right now because
I like that.
Well, when the Lokis are introduced, it's very reminiscent of the shot from the end of the first Avengers when Loki is down on the ground and he turns up on his back to see all the Avengers standing above him. So it's pretty much the same shot as Loki turning up to face all these Lokis. Add on to it is they add in some of the musical notes from the Avengers theme over that shot of the three Lokis.
Wow. The layering.
These guys don't play. So anyway, the Loki Avengers are also journeying into mystery on this episode because they are going from what is familiar to them and they're being forced, just like Loki is, to stop being so selfish, so about themselves, and to be about others, and to be about their friends and their family, which we'll get into later.
Very, very Dom from Fast and Furious, I see.
Look, Dom's barbershop, I didn't want to bring it up yet, but, we gonna get into that too.
Yeah, and also the journeying, when you think about it, like journeying beyond fear, right? Because obviously Eliath is essentially undefeatable, right? Or at least it seems undefeatable. And it's just like all these the Loki Avengers know is to just survive. It's just like, we don't fight it. We don't try to do the to the contrary. We're just out here trying to function. So
trying to function.
Right. So it's just like for then Loki and Sylvie to come in and be like, yo, we're going to flip the status quo. Just like you said, just like coming in, like Killmonger coming in, turning the world upside down. Here come these two new Lokis turning the world upside down or turning the void upside down, if you will.
And it's like old Loki says, is he being a coward or is he being brave? Because they don't even know what's going on in their world anymore.
Loki don't know either.
No, facts. He's just,
he just want to be with Sylvie.
Yeah, there it is.
His girl.
There it is.
All right.
This next theme right
yes.
here. So near and dear to my heart. Lost and Found. because as I'm sitting there watching the episode, it immediately, I was like, I didn't know this at all, but I was like, yo, Kate and Michael must be huge fans of Lost. Like, immediately from the jump, as soon as Alioth, the smoke monster, appears, even how Kate and Loki both wake up. I mean, not Kate, Sylvie and Loki both wake up in this world, and it's focused on their eyes. The opening shot of Lost is of Kate, Jack. I can't. Yeah, no, fuck.
As of a character.
Yeah,
on their
I'm
eyes.
lost on people's names right now.
You're lost on Lost. It's okay.
Yeah, because I never asked with that dude anyway. Look, I'm
Ooh.
Sawyer all day, folks. Don't even question me on it. Sawyer and my man Desmond, which we will get into. Because not only do we have a smoke monster, we also have a hatch. For Lovers of Lost, the end of the first season was the reveal of, not even the reveal, just the opening of the hatch. There'd been this hatch on the island since they got there from the beginning of the first season. They could never get it open. They didn't know what was in it, but they knew it was important. Then they get it open, and what's inside of it is the whole mystery of the second season. So as soon as I see this hatch and them going into it, I'm like, yo, and the smoke, even though Alioth is a character that is straight out of the comics as a purple smoke monster, for them, the way they had it, the way it moved, and like I said, Loki and Sylvie both opening on their eyes. And like we said, this is a journey into mystery. And the characters in Lost, the reason why they were on this island, like, people can argue whether they're dead, alive, whatever. That's irrelevant. The theme of the show is about people being lost. And I remember reading one of the creators, I'm not sure if it was Lindelof or Hughes, but before the show ended, he said none of these characters will ever get off this island until they fix what's within themselves that's lost. You know what I mean? Message. And that's the same thing what's in this void. Until Loki, until Sylvie, figure out what's wrong with themselves, what was wrong with their journey before this, and change. Mobius as well. Pretty much everyone who's in here who gets out of there has to make a major change and figure out what is wrong with the path they were on before they can get up out of there.
Damn.
Whew. Look, I love Lost.
This stuff is so deep.
I mean, law, and the thing is, people are gonna be like, Lost wasn't even that deep, and and I'm like, in some points it wasn't, but at the same time, at some points it was, and it's also what you take from these stories,
Exactly.
That's what something, like any comic book. People are like, comic books are kids, but I grew up reading these stories and the stuff that I took from them. When I go back and read some of them, I'm like, damn, this is kind of basic. But as a kid, my mind filled in all these gaps and made it so much bigger than what it was. And that's what Lost was to me, because there'd be times they would talk about things like Schrodinger's cat. And I'd be like, yo, somebody on TV is talking about Schrodinger's cat and the possibility idea and all this stuff. I'm like, that's crazy. And they're rapping into all this. And so then it would lead me, I'd be on YouTube watching stuff about Schrodinger's cat again, because I already knew about it. But it was just, I was like, yo, somebody's talking about this on TV.
It will lead you into your own form of self-discovery.
Yes, there it is. Which, same with these characters.
Yeah.
And one of the crucial lines in this episode that just crushed my fucking heart. Like, I said this last week. I wasn't sure about the after playing Kid Loki. Just his introduction. I was like, I don't know.
He's good.
God damn, that boy is good. Jack Veal is hitting.
Veal with a V.
Veal. Yes. But yes, when my man said, whenever one of us tries to fix themselves, we're sent here to die. And that just goes into everything that we've been talking about, this whole looping idea about Loki, the idea that his name is based on loops, that Loki himself is trapped in being the evil person in the stories, the one who always helps out, the heroes, makes them better just by the fact that he's evil and the fact that he can never escape that. And then that goes into the comics. That's what Journey into Mystery is about. That's what Agent of Asgard is about. The two comics that are probably most drawn from for this Loki series. Mm-hmm. And that's just such an ill line, because it's like these Lokis still have to fight that and still have to change, And once again, it goes back to that idea, like we talk about, brothers don't work it out, is all I'm going to say. What I mean? Whenever we try to fix ourselves, we're sent here to die. Who does that remind you of?
Listen, my brother, my Loki variant brother.
They call us one thing, and then we try to change.
We was Kangs.
We was Kangs, my brother. You saw the Sphinx with the full African nose
I knew he was gonna
upon
go there.
its face, unmarred by the crime of white toxicity. We don't even call it supremacy because it ain't supreme.
It's toxicity.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Never mind Ben, I mean, and his brothers, stuff. But
Gonna work it out.
Let's go into the next theme, which is what we're calling the God of Outcasts. This is actually said by, and again, another amazing line, but this is said by classic Loki when they're in their lair, their bowling alley lair, and they're talking about the role that Lokis are supposed to play. And as you mentioned, Ben, later on, Kid Lokis, he's lamenting, like, whenever they try to fix themselves, they're just sent to the void to die. Now, that whole understanding of the God of Outcasts, the idea of being an outcast, it runs throughout the series. It runs, obviously, throughout this episode. You see what happens with Loki when he's put into his time loop cell. He's basically told by Seth over and over again that he's a loser, that he's just meant to be just down bad all the time. People call him a loser, and you're meant to literally lose, and you're meant to be on the outskirts. Classic Loki, when he's explaining his story, like everyone has a supposed Nexus event that brought them to the void by the TVA. And with classic Loki, his whole thing was he got on his timeline. Thanos attacked his ship. He was able to use his what is that called? Projection magic to get away. He disguised himself, and I was laughing. He disguised himself as some space debris, he said, and just floated for who knows how long into space until he landed on a remote planet. And then at that point, like, he was able to think about himself and his life and all this other stuff. But as this was happening, he still just felt bad about himself. He was just like, everywhere he goes, he noticed that only pain followed. And again, that's the life of an outcast. Like, you're always meant to be alone. You're never meant to be with someone. And he said, and with him, the moment he decides, I miss my brother, I miss my bro, I miss my peoples, I want to go see him, that's when he gets hemmed up. Yep. Same thing with Sylvie. She talks about all the time how she has nobody. She never really had friends and all this other stuff. As a child, she was chased throughout time by the TVA. She was hiding in apocalypses from childhood to whatever she is now. So, like, what kind of life is that?
Not the best one. And also what old man Loki was saying is also reminiscent of what happens in Journey into Mystery, where actually the old version of Loki gets killed, but he's put into like this pocket universe of darkness all off by himself until he starts trying to influence the new Kid Loki to turn him more back into him, to keep him in that same loop, while Kid Loki is trying to escape this loop.
The idea of loops and repeating things and palindromes and all sorts of things, like, it's so prevalent. Continuing on with the theme of the God of Outcasts, we notice the Loki Avengers, they live in an underground lair, which is traditionally where kind of the outcasts and villains, that's where they could be at. There's also the understanding of the thought of monsters, right? Monsters are in storytelling are known as Monsters, Letty, are known as outcasts. When you think of something simple like Shrek, right? Like, he's the nicest troll or whatever the hell he is, but he's an outcast, right? Or ogre, that's what he is. But he's an outcast. And any characters who are essentially deemed villains are essentially end up being outcasts.
I know their lair gave you Big Lebowski vibes.
Yes, huge. Yes. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. I wanted to finish up this thing about this monster stuff because...
Just on that same Monsters and their lair of outcasts, it gave me big Lost Boys vibes, where the vampires in Lost Boys, the vampires are living in an underground lair that was created by an earthquake, and this whole like hotel subdivision crushed underground, and that's where the vampires live. And it gave me that big vibe like that, of something old and beat up that somebody else, that the outcasts have now taken. Right,
and this was like an old and beat up bowling alley from with like a 50s, 60s motif going on.
And also the Lost Boys are monsters.
Monsters, Letty.
Monsters.
That's repeated throughout this episode, this sub-theme, if you will, because we see at one point there's a shot where the camera goes across to Alligator Loki, and there's a book on the floor next to him titled The Mystery and Lore of Monsters by Charles J.S. Thompson. It's a book from 1930. Loki, after he tries to get everybody with that weak speech he gives, he tries to get everybody on his side, and they just laugh him off. And as he's leaving the lair, he mutters monsters under his breath. And that idea of monsters and the euphemisms of monsters, right? Like, you're an animal, you're this, you're that. That's another thing that's just kept repeating. Classic Loki himself said it. He said, when after that debacle with the marauding Lokis, he yells out loud, animals. We lie and we cheat. We cut the throat of every person that trusts us. And as we continue through those interactions, there's so many versions of animals, right? Like there's literally alligator Loki, who is literally an animal. You have that when that conversation between President Loki and the rest, where they're calling themselves snakes and wolves. Sylvie said the TVA hunted her like a dog. Even within the void itself, when they're trying to explain to Loki what the purple cloud monster is, they liken Goliath to a shark, just like any other animal. And it's that animalistic / monster attitude, as that typical nature of the Lokis, is one of the reasons why they have yet to really come up with a good plan to escape or have some peace in the void.
I don't know who else just compared to animals a lot.
Oh my God!
I'm just saying, and just to go a little deeper on that real quick, because we are talking about the God of Outcasts, and you can't say Outcasts without mentioning the AT aliens, Andre 3000 and Big Boy.
I was just about to say you God of Outcasts with a K.
Yes, and the first album, Southern Playlist of Cadillac Music, contains an interlude by Big Rube where he explains what an outcast is. And he says an outcast doesn't have to be black. It's just someone who is outcasted from society, et cetera, et cetera. He said if you're a cracker or someone who thinks you're a cracker, then you're going to think it's all about niggas and, Cadillacs and slamming doors and all that. But if you understand what it is, then you ain't going to, then you an outcast and you one of them. Thus, I'm saying Loki, God of the Outcasts, A's up,
The closest we get to calling Loki black, the better, right?
I'm just thinking of that T-shirt that I got to make now,
right.
with the God of Outcasts with a K,
That's high. That's so fire, actually.
Yeah.
You mentioned Ben. Since we're in that, we mentioned the lair and all that I gave me Big Lebowski vibes. In that movie, basically, virtually everyone is double crossing each other. There's no trust. It's lots of comedy of errors and series of unfortunate events and just general buffoonery that's happening. And that happens almost to a T in this episode, especially particularly with that Loki Marauder, Loki Avengers fight. Yep. Or what they call it, a skirmish, or kerfluffle in the lair.
A brouhaha.
And even just the way they all started, how did President Loki and them get there? Boastful Loki, why gotta be the black man? Black man Loki double crosses kid Loki, and then in order to get his deal with President Loki, but then President Loki double crosses him, and then President Loki's own marauders double cross President Loki. It's just all over the place. And I was dying because, and that was the point, even you saw Loki Lofson, he was just exasperated. He was like, y'all niggas cannot get it together. And the one, you would think the one time where it's all of y'all together, all different types of Lokis with different power sets, and y'all could potentially come together and make something happen, y'all are all fucked up.
Once again, Marvel shouting themselves out because Loki puts his hand to his head in the same fashion that Hulk did when he saw the old Hulk in Endgame. When Smart Hulk rolls up on old Hulk and old Hulk is trash in New York City, Smart Hulk is like, oh my God, I can't believe that was me. And Loki goes, oh my God, I can't believe these guys are all me. And that's how it was.
Stay true, that's all me. Drake references. But
I never change.
It's not all bad because there does always seem to be a glimmer of hope, as is the classic Marvel approach. Mobius says in response to classic Loki, asking why, he's going to turn on the TV. He said it's never too late to change. And he's referring to all the Lokis there. It's never too late to change. It's never too late to see the error of your ways and redeem yourself. You're not all just monsters.
My man who got Captain Hook, it's a little too late for him to change.
Ooh. Yeah.
I mean, it was literally an alligator biting his hand off. That's how Captain Hook loses his hand.
It is how Captain Hook got. I was dying. I thought it was the funniest thing, and it was meant to be comedic because the way that President Loki just screamed and it was a lot. It was just a lot in the funniest way.
Also in that episode, Kid Loki and Alligator. I mean, in that fight scene, Kid Loki and Alligator Loki performed Need Help move from Thor Ragnarok, when Thor and Loki are like, I need help, and then Thor throws Loki at the people.
Oh, is that like the fastball shuffle, like an offshoot of that?
There you go, the fastball special. Yeah, like the fastball special where Colossus usually throws Wolverine at people.
Right.
Which to me is, as a kid, I was like, oh, that's so cool. As an adult, I'm like, this is the weirdest idea ever.
You know, the worst idea.
Like one of the worst too. Like, you throw your dude into a fight.
Wolverine, but you could throw Wolverine at anything. My man's is not going nowhere. It's Wolverine.
I get it. But it's also it's like you're depending on that being the case every time. The one time it isn't. Like you're all guys over here and y'all threw him over there.
What is the percentage that it's not going to work when it's Wolverine?
Facts, you're right. Anything you throw him at usually
Mans
is, that's the end of that.
Man.
Yeah,
so in terms
we debate the usefulness of a fastball special.
Yeah. And in terms of this place where they're all living right now, they're all inhabiting, is the void itself, which is as classic Loki explains, is Kid Loki's kingdom, and is that place specifically for the outcast people and items that what we now find out when things get pruned by the TVA, they don't die, they aren't destroyed, they don't disappear. In fact, this is similar to kind of the science and pseudoscience that Marvel employs, which is that energy, like you can't destroy energy, right? Like it can only be transferred or made into something else or whatever the case may be. And they follow this, like, energy cannot be destroyed, so it has to be put someplace else. And that someplace else is the void. And the void is, in bringing through the other themes, is also this mysterious place. It's the Bermuda Triangle of time. And shout out to Kate Herron, this apocalyptic Teletubby land, where you just have all these random things of all sorts of shapes and sizes just thrown in there, and then it's guarded by Goliath, which is this huge purple amorphous angry cloud dragon monster, and all it's there is to devour the matter that falls into the void. I think that if you get ate by Goliath, that's the true death.
Yes.
Like there's nothing like because you could be there and be alive, but once he comes or it comes, you're done.
I mean, because you could be a lot of places and be alive, and then, you can get killed. You go into the void, it ain't, like death. It's like, no, that was specific to them staffs.
Right.
No.
Right.
Yeah, so when Goliath come through, you done.
Boastful Loki explains that Goliath is a living tempest that devours matter and energy and realities in an instant. And we also basically realize that this Goliath is a guard dog. Again, the whole theme of monsters and animals and stuff like that. It's essentially a guard dog of the location of the true person or persons behind the TVA.
And we mentioned this before, the Stephen King book, The Langoliers. I did not get it right. And shout outs to the twitch.tv/forallnerds who corrected me in the chat. But the book, The Langoliers, is the book or the novella that Stephen King wrote about these people who get trapped on a plane that gets like out of sync with time. So they see the things that are eating time behind them. And they basically look like little versions of Goliath, little tiny Pac-Man sized versions of Goliath that just eat everything in sight.
Right. And this could be related, could not be related, but because of Goliath is purple, I thought of the Infinity Stones. That's the color of the Power Stone. We know the Power Stone, if you go back to the beginning of the Infinity Stones, depending on what you read, it's a remnant of one of the 6 singularities which existed before the universe did. So that would make sense for Goliath to be kind of that time lord or part of that pantheon of time supreme beings.
Most definitely is. And in the comics, Goliath is like the supreme energy of overtime. And yet another of our big hints, or as we are now going with red herrings, that in this castle is Kang, because Goliath in the comic books at one point gets unleashed by Ravonna. She has to call in the Avengers to come and help stop Goliath. And in the end of this whole thing, Kang takes Goliath and uses Goliath to protect his kingdom of Chronopolis.
There it is.
So to see Goliath as this thing that is revealed to protecting this untouched kingdom.
Yeah. This untouched kingdom.
Kate.
This untouched
Come
kingdom.
on, Mike.
Which exists at the end of time. And that's why I just thought was just interesting about the void. Like, it's the stop before the end of time, right? Like, Ravonna confirms NERD, no one ever really dies. When it comes to anyone who gets pruned and all these branches that they claim are getting reset, they're not getting reset. They're just getting transported to this void.
Yep.
And it's so that those branches won't continue growing.
Yeah. And I think boastful Loki said that, entire branches come here and get consumed in an instant.
Yeah.
Of course, our heroes managed to survive for like hours, but
or days or years or whatever, how time passes.
Man, Loki and them been there a minute, right? That man been through it.
All right. And our last theme is for all time, always. We see that as the running slogan of the TVA.
That sounds like an R&B song.
It doesn't.
For all time, always.
Featuring Ravonna F. Rensselaer. But yeah, and it's said by Ravonna and Mobius. And you see it all over the TVA on the walls. You even see it in the beginning of this episode when the camera's panning above the golden elevator. It's engraved on a plaque right above it. And again, that's there's lots of meanings there, but at the end of the day, you're talking about time, right? Mm-hmm. An understanding of something that's limitless, forever. It could be hard to quantify. It doesn't stop. You also see again, and Ben mentioned it a few episodes back, but like on the elevator, it has that hourglass design or motif pattern, which obviously hourglass symbolizes time, but also when an hourglass is placed on its side, it also resembles an infinity symbol, which you can be thinking about infinite realms and multiverses and things like that. Again, infinite time, infinite
also
place, loops, a Mobius strip. Like it's all connected, y'all.
All connected. And the symbol also represents or resembles the Norse symbol. Don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. I'll go with Dagaz.
Okay.
And Dagaz looks like the two triangles placed on their side connected. So if you, as the camera flips, it basically is a Dagaz. So Dagaz represents fulfillment at the end of a path and is the rune of an awakening. Its shape also depicts the balance between negative and positive energy and the balance between light and darkness.
Right.
Basically, Dagaz and and with all three of these things, we're all relating back to Loki because as we said on a previous episode,
yes,
bless you again, that Loki is like the name in ancient Norse means loops, means a knot actually, because something's tied into a loop, into a knot, and it's trapped in that knot, in that loop, and that's what Loki is always representing. So.
And thank you for the blessing, but I didn't sneeze. I was stuttering because you said exactly what I was thinking. Like, I was just like, oh my God, yes. Because like the idea, like you said, it's a Norse symbol, and that's all within the whole, what Asgardians are patterned after.
And also in the whole, who is behind the TVA, once again. And that's something I was reading about, and it's something, this is just kind of a rule of, well, it's not a rule, but it's just kind of something a lot of writers stick to, right? In mystery stories, usually the mystery is revealed to the protagonist at the very beginning, right? Right away at the very beginning. They're like, this is the answer to the mystery. And in our Loki series, in the first episode, Loki says, this whole TVA is an illusion. It's a trick designed just like I did to keep people in fear, blah, blah, blah. He says the same shit that he said in the Avengers movie, right? That same thing that he's always been talking. So he says it right away. And then immediately he's distracted by all this other stuff. Oh, you got to go chase your clone. You got to do this. You got to do that. Whoop, whoop, whoop. But you already know what it is, dog. But the protagonist is always distracted. It's never something where it's Kang out of nowhere. And that's what this would be right now. And that's why we said last week, it's highly unlikely that it's Kang in that castle. It's most probably another version of Loki who won in the end and did exactly what he wanted to do. Become king of space.
It's like so nicely wrapped up in a bow.
It's so perfect.
I hate you. I hate it so perfect.
I hated myself because I wanted to see Kang 1 and 2. Fuck, it's like I'm mad because I didn't get this right in episode 1. Like people are always like, yo, views from the 616 be on it. And I wasn't on it like that. I was distracted like every other motherfucker, Kate and Michael pulled off the trick, and the whole writer's room, the whole production team, everybody else did it. I did say that in the very beginning. I was like, that line is so fucking important when he just said that all of this is an illusion. That you're doing the exact same thing I do.
Yeah. Yeah, and further about the idea that it could be Loki, and also relevant to For All Time Always, when classic Loki, is talking, like when Loki's like, why are there so many of us in the void? What are y'all doing here? Classic Loki explains that we survived. That's all there ever was. And he also says we're broken, every version of us forever. That idea of loops and repetition and the same thing happening over and over. But we do have some outliers finally.
And also, it's what Mobius tells him. You can be whatever,
Yeah,
that's
like his mom told him.
Yep. But that's also the problem. The Loki's, in one way, it's a, weak cop out excuse, like, oh, we didn't ever get any love, and so we're terrible, a lot of people don't get no love and don't turn out terrible, folks. But,
I feel you.
But people are definitely going to be getting on me because I got hard body on Wanda about her transgressions. And I think we actually, if you watch the interview with Kate, we bring this up on the Kate interview, but I really haven't brought it up on the show, is that the Loki we're seeing right here just went ham on New York. I mean,
just went ham.
Weeks ago, like 9/11
days or weeks ago, whatever it was.
Up, who knows how many thousands of people died in that battle? All because of this one person. Because he wanted to be king of space, right? So
right.
Tens of thousands of people died, right? Let's just go with it, Wanda, 3,600 people ruined their lives forever. But Loki, I can't lie. In episode 5, when Loki and Sylvie are cuddling up, I'm feeling it. So, it's like hats off, but, monsters, Letty. Monsters. This man. And he still, to me, I feel like we talked about this in the interview. The only thing that makes him different so far to me is that this show hasn't let him off the hook yet. Like I said last week, yet. And if he ever does get back to the main MCU, he's still got a lot of questions to answer. But we'll see. I don't, and the more I feel like Wanda is going to have to answer for Westview. And I think Marvel is smart enough to not let her off the hook like some of the audience has done.
Even Elizabeth Olsen hasn't let her off the hook, herself as Wanda off the hook. She said that she was, I don't think she said the word monster, but she said that
criminal.
Criminal. That's what she said.
And I still feel like WandaVision as a show let her off the hook.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You saw how she did? She 5-0 coming at me dip. Like, what?
And more so Monica being like, they'll never understand what you lost. Your fake kids that you created.
You notice Loki couldn't get away from Time 12.
Not at all.
So Wanda gets off scot-free. But when it comes to... No, I'm not going to go.
I mean, my man's, the black woman didn't do anything but exist. And they came for our sister as a child.
They did. It just keeps repeating.
God of Outcasts with a K, baby.
Oh,
Southern
man.
Playalistic, ATL,
That is it for the themes.
Aliens.
That is it for the themes. We still have a lot of episode to go because we want to talk about these characters.
Do we?
Especially as we barrel towards the very last episode of Loki series. First of all, I just want to say I've had a blast with this series. Like, yeah, I had my low point with episode 3. Like, I don't hate it as much as I did before. And I never hated it. I don't dislike it as much as I did before, but it's still not my favorite.
Nope.
But like, I've still had a huge time with this series.
Yeah, same here. Like I've fully, everything you said 100%. I didn't hate 3, but I realized what they were doing with it, and I liked what they did with it overall. But it was the low point of the show for me. But then 4 and 5 were fucking cracking, you know? And I've actually had discussions with people, I can't even mention their name right now, but I've had discussions, and they're like, kind of to Loki. And the thing is, so far with me, with the whole TV series of the MCU, so far they really don't have the weight of pre-Thanos, pre-Avengers, where it's like where at least we felt like, okay, we're leading towards this, Thanos eventually, and it's gonna get ugly.
But I would argue, was there any Thanos weight until Thanos appeared in that after credit scene? You didn't know where they were going.
No, true. In the first way, in wave one, right? I had no clue. It was just like,
Yeah.
okay, these are good movies, and they're
Yeah.
all, and they seemingly relate. And okay, so that's the thing. It just feels like after this, I wanted to move a little bit quicker, but I also feel like we haven't gotten it. I mean, we got in the Black Widow, but I think things are really going to start, moving. And even in all these things are moving. Like Wanda turned into a monster, in WandaVision, like straight up. She wasn't a monster before WandaVision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as far as the characters of Loki are concerned, again, we have classic Loki, played by the legendary Richard E. Grant. I already mentioned his backstory about what his Nexus event was. He got homesick, and the TVA was like, nope, brother, you supposed to be in this jail of the mind on this remote planet by yourself. What we do learn about Loki is his magic is fucking strong. Now, I also think, like, is this really indicative of all Lokis? Like, all of them could be that strong if they just allow themselves to be.
Yes. He's like Loki says it. I think we're stronger than we think we are. And this dude had time by himself. He is the classic Loki. Also, like we talked about, that is the more what classic Loki was in the Marvel comics, especially. He had big magic powers. He was not some dude who pulled out knives.
Big magic. And he even says as much. He was like, knives are cool, but when your throat gets slit, they're cute on the floor. Nothing beats what he said, sorcery, the Loki sorcery specifically. And go ahead. And
that was some cold-blooded shit to Infinity War, because that's exactly what happened to Loki. He tried to pull that knife out and
what? You gotta be quicker than that. And
you almost had it.
You almost had it. You see him in that final scene causing a distraction for Eliath. He projects the entire city of Asgard, like beat for beat, bar for bar, word for word, like the entire city.
And my man got down in the stance. Boy.
I mean, he was with it, and I'm just like, and of course, yo, I miss my Uncle Classic Loki, y'all, because like why he had to go, and of course he went a second before, like 2 seconds before they got the enchantment together. I was like, dog, really?
But is he dead? Remember what he said? He described himself as the debris.
Oh, he could. You mean that could have also been a projection of himself?
Yes.
Could have. I'm hoping that was the case.
Yeah, this is Richard E. Grant. You don't get rid of that after that either.
No, and you did see him when they were fighting the marauding Lokis, that he created projections of all of the Loki Avengers, and then that's how they were able to dip. So
he teleported.
I didn't see the little green outline like when they showed his projection, so I'm not sure. But Ben, I'm hoping that really wasn't him. But it's just the way how he triumphantly was screaming, like,
it was
this
awesome
is my last hurrah.
Yeah.
Like I'm going down with the ship, Captain. Like that. That's why I'm like, oh, maybe it really was him. But
if it was, that's how you go out. And it was such a masterful performance by Richard E. Grant, because Mans was in the most ridiculous version, even though it was very dope, of the classic Loki costume. They did.
It looked good. It looked cool. Like it looked funny, but also cool.
Cool at the same time. And it was also dingy and beat, so you knew when it was fresh, it was dope. But he wore that shit. Like we talked about with Kate, when he sits down and throws the cape up. It's just, I could watch a GIF of that over and over again. It's so hilarious. And
the cape is a part of his being, a part of his movement. He uses it very masterfully to further express his thoughts and emotions in the scenes.
And then when he is doing that scene, like you said, bar for bar, he is just going in. And this man is acting in front of a green screen right there. There's nothing behind him. And he's just full in, doing it. So salute, bro.
Salute for real.
Yeah.
We also have Kid Loki, played by soon-to-be legendary, hopefully, Jack Veal. He's playing your favorite character, Ben, I mean.
Yes. One of my all-time favorites. Look him up. Like we said, read Journey into Mystery. Especially read Young Avengers by Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey, because that's my favorite of all Kid Loki's appearances. And then Agent of Asgard for a little bit more by Al Ewing. But he's basically this kid Loki who is trying not to be like the Loki of the classic Loki that we just talked about. And in the comics, he is reborn after classic Loki is killed by the Void.
Yeah. And Kid Loki ain't no hoe, because
not at all.
When what's his face tried to disrespect him, they like, hey, yo, put some respect on this boy's name, because number one, this is his kingdom, the Void. And then when when Loki's like, well, what you do? He said, I killed my nigga Thor. Like I was like, oh, everyone was just like, oh, okay. Like what's the name of the guy on the wire? The king at the end. Like, you swing at the king, you best not miss. Like, that's how I felt about him.
True indeed. And it's also that that also relates to the comics, because how Kid Loki is born is he makes a trick and Thor is killed because of it.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, all the Asgardians get murdered, actually, and then he, is reborn as Kid Loki. The rest, they all get reborn. So, it all works out.
Upon their first meeting of Loki, it looks like they all have bags and stuff, like they're scavenging to get stuff they need. I did see that there was a toaster in his backpack. Not sure that signified anything, or he just really likes toast, but it's
Who doesn't?
There is a character called Toast, but I know this has nothing to do with it in Marvel.
Yeah.
And I saw in the lair, his throne is amidst what looks like Toyland type decoration. So, like, even though he's this badass Kid Loki, all this stuff, he's still a child.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the juxtaposition you're supposed to see. He's sitting on this very regal stag head throne, but he chilling, drinking a High C juice box.
Yep. And the High C juice box is actually Ecto Cooler. So people from the 80s remember that Ecto Cooler was a limited edition of High C that was made for Ghostbusters. It was disgusting.
Oh.
And, it tasted like...
You remember what it tastes like?
No, not especially. I just remember, this was not the thing. But, I definitely drank it down like a fiend because,
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody was fiending.
He does have some type of device. Perhaps it's something he cobbled together in the void that's like a radar or object detection.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if he's able to move items around the void. That's how he brought that giant USS ship down.
I didn't think he brought things down. I think it's like you said, it's a radar detection that lets them know, because he also turns around and it's like, oh, the car's coming. He knew the car.
Okay,
that a car
so he knows
coming.
that it's on its way. So so he can detect when things are on
so
their
they
way
didn't
to
get
the void.
squashed. Yeah.
Okay, so so they were positioning themselves where they knew the giant ship was gonna come in,
and probably where Elias was more their concern.
True.
They were going for Elias. The ship just got. They're like, oh shit, ship. We've seen this before.
True.
Else.
He also, Kid Loki, gives Loki a golden sword / flaming sword named, is it
Leviathan?
Leviathan.
Yeah.
And he wields that same weapon in the Agent of Asgard comic.
Yep.
And the idea of flaming swords is all over myth and biblical stories and in Christian, Jewish, Germanic,
Norse,
like it's all
everything.
over the world.
Yeah.
All over the world, that idea of a flaming sword. And in some stories, it's the sword of the angels. Obviously, it's a sword that has the power of God, and it's all sorts of stuff that goes on when he talks about flaming swords.
Sick with it.
Yeah.
Shit looks cool. Game of Thrones, come on, man. Everybody loves it.
Yeah. We have Alligator Loki, who, to comedic effect, only classic Loki is able to translate, or he's the only one who does translate the growls and grunts. I thought that was funny. I love that when they a character says something in some gibberish and you're like, oh, he's not happy with you. He don't like you. All this other stuff. That was cute. I felt like Alligator Loki be on that sauce because you saw him down in that red wine having a good old time. His Nexus event, or its Nexus event, was eating the wrong neighbor's cat. Now, I'm like, is that a reference to another Marvel story that we're unaware of? But
I'm pretty unaware of it. I definitely got the Captain Hook reference when he ate the hand, but
right.
Yeah.
He bites off and eats President Loki's right hand.
Yes. And wait, I did have one thing to say about Alligator Loki. Oh, my favorite scene with Alligator Loki was when Mobius is sitting there and talking about, is he even a Loki, because he doesn't remember him. But that just also leads to the idea that Loki has been brain wiped. Mobius has been brain wiped quite a few times because he doesn't remember capturing this Loki. But he did capture Alligator Loki at some point in his past. But I just love how, they debate it, and, classics like he's green. And then Mobius goes into the hole, he's lying, and it could be a con within a con, which is always what you Lokis are about, and I respect that. And that was just like, you said, which I respect, but that was just, oh, I love that scene. Owen Wilson was killing it.
And that whole idea of just ridiculousness, like, of all Loki variants, okay, let's just throw an alligator in that bitch. Like, that's just perfect.
It also...
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
Okay, it also comes from the comics where a lot of these Lokis that we've seen have appeared. There was one shot of one time when Loki gathered up all the different Lokis from all the alternate realities. And you saw the hulking Loki in that shot. You saw Kid Loki in that shot. You saw the Norris-looking horned Loki that we saw in the first episode. We saw the big green one and that same Norris one. And there's also this cat Loki who's more of a cat man, but a Loki.
Yeah.
Standing next to the Loki. So, they went with an alligator instead of
you
the
saw
cat.
all the
There it is.
There
Maybe
it
he
is.
ate the wrong neighbor's cat. Maybe he ate the cat Loki, and that's
Right.
why there ain't no
Maybe he
cat
ate
Loki
himself.
no more.
He ate
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
Oh man, good job, Ben. I mean, and that also reminds me just of the way the Marauders were presented. That they were all Lokis and how their horns were. Like one guy had handlebar bikes for horns.
Yes. Struggle. Struggle.
The other guy he
Struggle
used his-
Loki.
Struggle Loki. He had the other guy, the one other black one I seen. I imagine he was black. He had locks.
Yes.
That was like shaped in that way. And I mean,
My
they were
next
all over
cosplay.
the place. I mean, all of that, like that would be an amazing cosplay, y'all. So if y'all going to any of the conventions coming up, being the marauding Lokis, that would be fire.
All right. Well, somebody got to join in with me because I'm doing Dread Loki.
You gonna do Dread Loki for real?
Yeah, I'm doing Dread Loki.
Of course.
Of course.
You're gonna have to use wire for your
Yeah,
lock.
easy
so
money.
long.
I've had that shit before. I once had loops. I once had 2 loops.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be fire.
Yeah.
Let's talk about boastful Loki, aka Black Loki, played by Diobia Opere. He's so, oh my God, he be capping.
Bid capping.
Claims he vanquished Captain America and Iron Man and stole all 6 Infinity Stones.
And then I
that's why-
claimed my prize.
And then Alligator Loki was not having that shit. He just immediately was like, nigga, you are a lie, and just went and bit him. But I wonder what Boastful Loki's actual Nexus event was. Is it because he was black?
No, because all Lokis are black. That has nothing to do with it. No. It's for his big cap and, you know what I mean?
It's just for it just being a lying ass.
Yeah, like they just got tired of that shit. Like, come on, fam. Like,
So TVA was just like, nah, you're doing too much.
yeah, like, bro, for real? Get his ass out of here.
And my whole thing is, because he's such a big capper, I'm like, like the way he was holding his plastic, now I'm calling it plastic at this point, his little plastic fake ass Mjolnir to Kid Loki's neck. I'm like, was there even really lethal or anything going on? Like, he was really holding to him like he was going to hurt him.
Doubtful. Big
Whatever.
capping. Yeah.
Yeah, and we know he did his whole betrayal situation, so he's left behind. And then we also get a glimpse of President Loki. There is that is reminiscent of the Vote Loki comic. Ben, I mean, did you want to mention any of that?
It's a cool comic where Loki runs for president and basically says that all your candidates are lying to you. So I'm going to lie to you too, but I'm just going to tell you I'm lying right off the bat. And that's my campaign premise. And he runs on it. And, it's basically about him gaining power for himself and then eventually deciding that it was, doing all that ain't worth all the trouble and running a government ain't worth all the trouble. It goes through a bunch of other stuff. But just the what did you expect line is from one of the covers where he's standing there running for president. And it's like, what did you expect? It's Loki running for president.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is, as we saw, the angry purple cloud, Eliath.
Cloud monster. Smoke
the cloud monster. In the comics, he's known as a supreme time being. He is quoted as the first being who broke free from the constraints of time, and that his empire is larger than that of Kang himself, stretching billions of years before the rise of man on Earth. So that idea that he's like this kind of lizard-like creature, also kind of a dragon / alligator type situation, that makes sense if you're thinking of it in that way. And Ben, I mean, you mentioned that comic that features Kang and Ravonna, actually, where Ravonna accidentally unleashed him.
Unleashed Eliath and had to call on the Avengers to fight him, and then Kang gets in control of him and uses him to protect his kingdom, Chronopolis. Got it.
And, another badass character. That leads us to Sylvie, and I'm going to put her last name, Lafidotir. So daughter of what's the name of the frost giant?
Luffy,
okay, daughter of Luffy.
Yep.
Played by Sophia Di Martino. You see her another gangster, self-prunes herself to get transported to the void.
Prune me.
And my thing is, like, this is after you get the information, like, you don't really trust Ravonna. Ravonna's telling you, he's probably not really dead and all this other stuff. And it's like, to have this semblance in your head, like, you know what, I'm just going to trust that piece of information. Mm-hmm. And it actually works. Like, that takes a lot of bravery.
Gangster. Sylvie earned everything for me in this episode. I became a Sylvie stan. hard body in this episode.
Yeah, definitely. I like her a lot.
Love
Yeah.
her. Yeah.
When Ravana asked her if she has any good memories, Ravana basically was like, "Oh, if you come out, I'll put you in a time loop with a good memory." She says that she just has one. And I wonder if that memory is her and Loki and Lamentis one, or if it's something from her childhood, or the little bit of her childhood she had, or what could it be?
No, it's probably her and Loki on Lamentis 1. Or when she was smashing Stan Lee across the multiverse.
Okay.
I mean, one or the other.
Oh, man.
Both equally good times, you know? Who knows? You know, you gotta choose.
You see, for me, Loki confirms my suspicion and our theory that Sylvie got picked up just based on her very existence. Because he says, "Have y'all ever met a female Loki?" And there was one of the Marauders that I thought was a woman, but I guess based on what Loki's saying, it wasn't. It was like a red-haired Marauder.
Yeah.
But I guess not. So I'm like, so the fact that she's a female variant of this variant is something against the sacred equation, if you will.
But it's also that they waited for her to be 8 years old. It could be that they just haven't seen female variants because Loki, I mean, whoever's behind the TVA is eliminating all of,
True.
You know, every variant before they get a chance to see them.
So you're trying to say maybe there are more female variants and we just don't know, or is she really the only one?
I mean, there's a hashtag that's official for Marvel for a fire truck Loki. So at this point, folks,
okay,
this is truth. Go on Twitter, fire truck Loki, and still has not been revealed what that's about, but there's the hashtag.
Okay.
Yeah.
When she first dropped into the void, she was running from Elias. She was actually able to link with it briefly through this, I'm calling it an enchantment encounter. Mm-hmm. And she saw some sort of building, which you mentioned, Ben, could potentially be Chronopolis Castle or whatever you want to call it, or it could just be where, if Loki's really behind all of this, that's where the other Loki is staying. I did notice as I was just looking like really closely at that area, again, you see this castle-like structure. Beyond that portal, it seems to be on like the edge of space, right? Like an aurora borealis going on. There's spaceships or type of ships floating around. It seems potentially, or if maybe it's not an aurora, it's protected by a force field or something like that. And in the middle is a giant tower with like a slightly glowing yellow top, which could potentially be the source of the power of like the Tempads and the time weapons and all stuff like that.
There you go. And once again, going back to the comments, Loki's kingdom is protected by a force field, energy field that keeps Elias out, while Elias also masked that the kingdom is inside of it. I mean, not Loki, sorry. Kang's kingdom.
Kang.
Yeah. Kang's kingdom in the MCU is protected by, folks, it's fucking Loki behind it.
Why this last part, Ben? Why do you say it's that?
Oh my God. This is on my last rewatch. I caught this one, yo. I cried. Sylvie is like, we're going to get through this and it's going to take me to whoever is behind all of this. It's her, it's Sylvie Mobius and Loki standing there. And as she says, take me to whoever is behind all of this, it's not on her anymore. The camera's no longer on her. It is dead on Loki's face. And as you will learn in our interview, Kate Herron is a director who, like I say, all directors should be, pays attention to every single thing that's in the frame and tries to make as much things as possible intentional with camera work and with things like that. Like Sylvie is speaking, the camera can easily be on her face, but it cuts to Loki.
It's intentional.
It's very intentional, folks. I cried. I was like,
it's like, what percentage is intentional, what percentage is red herring?
Yeah. But see, even the red herrings are very intentional.
Right. Because which makes it so left up. Damn it, Kate.
Because that's what we said that's why I keep saying, like, I knew it from the gate. I was like, yo, this whole thing's an illusion. I didn't realize Loki was behind it, but I was like, yo, he's saying, I said it, I'm sure I said it in the first episode. Yo, if you go back, like, he's saying what he's done before. He's saying the TVA is exactly what I do. Y'all are just like me.
He said, I do this.
Yeah, I do this. I know this shit. I've already used this trick.
I does this, man.
And then he's like, what would you be? King of space. What is it? King of space.
That is a castle. It looks like a castle to me.
Who's the king of space and time. the TVA and their castle.
It
run
looks
by
like
Loki.
Doctor Doom type castle. Too.
Yeah, definitely. And all red herrings once again. Oh, fuck, it could be Doom. Doom got a time machine. Yo, y'all know them comics for Doom? Yeah.
Yes, I know. Because from watching the cartoons, that's how I know.
Oh, Doom has a time. Does he have, is it the flat?
He has a time. In
like,
the old cartoons used to come on Fox, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I recall episodes where he had a time machine.
because in the comics, I love how they do his time machine. It's like he'll be standing there and there's like this flat panel of white energy that floats up the floor and just erases who's ever standing there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was always a dope ass effect.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I can't wait for them to do it in the movies, but yeah, it's a dope effect. But I mean, now you can't get, motherfuckers just walking through doors and, that's Doom's time machine is not impressive anymore. Like, it's like, yeah. So,
but they'll make it impressive.
A while.
They'll make it impressive.
No, they won't. Cause I'm telling you, that's dub because it's like, that's what made me laugh so hard at the first episode. It made Tony Stark's whole machine irrelevant. Like, that's cute.
It made it look rudimentary as fuck.
Yeah. Like, y'all.
And even though this stuff looks old, right?
Yeah, even though this stuff looks old, they're walking through a door. So Doom's thing of it floating up is to be like, yeah, that's cute. That takes a while. Like, we could just walk through a door, dog.
Yeah. You are children.
Yeah, bro. You're the smartest person on Earth, Tony Stark. That's what Rocket told Tony.
We got Loki Lofton, played by Tom Hiddleston, the man.
Mm-hmm.
I was laughing at, I knew why, but I was laughing at this scene with him and Sylvie because this man can literally conjure absolutely any fucking thing. And he conjures up this tiny ass, thin ass blanket for him and Sylvie when, he's sitting there. But as we all know, they were essentially faking so they could get a little closer. But also, Ben, a point that I completely forgot and that you mentioned here about the both of them. Why are they using the blanket in the first place?
Yeah, because they're both ice giants. Like, they don't feel the cold at all, ever.
So when he was like, oh, it's cold, she was like, yep.
Both of them lying. Both of them lying. Game recognized game, as they say.
We do see Loki, his redemption arc is big over this series. He seems like a changed man, sees the error of his past ways. He even has true friendship in Mobius, and we get that heartfelt moment with the hug before Mobius goes back to time jump to the TVA. I felt nice and warm inside with that.
Yeah. I can't lie. It was, that got me. So, what's the actor's name who plays Sylvie again?
Sophia DiMartino.
Sophia is like, at first I was like, I like her, but I don't like her. This episode, I'm a big fan of confident women. I always have been. I grew up on comments of my mom, everyone, reading my confident women. So that's always been something I love. And in this episode, I was feeling Sylvie because she was confident. Like, she ain't on the run no more. She was like, yo, Ravonna, what the fuck? Now don't try that bullshit with me. A word, I'll just stab I'll just prune myself, So I was like, my heart, right away. So yeah. And Ravonna.
Oh man. We're going to get to your girl Ravonna in a second.
Okay.
I want to mention Frog Thor in a jar, aka Throg.
Yes.
Who is in a jar with a T365 label on top of it. Let's talk to me a little bit about him, Ben.
Yes. Okay. Because
or it or them or
we both do these notes together and we compiled them together. Tatiana had some notes from the internet, and I was like, "Yo, I didn't know all this," and then I had to go read because I'd forgotten. And I was like,
the story of Throg. It's a very convoluted one.
Yes, they kept adding to it. Like comics love to do. But anyway, back when I was a kid, Thor issue 364. I actually mentioned
365.
No, hold up. I'm gonna get to 365.
Okay.
I actually mentioned this run before because there's this moment. All right, Suitor attacks Asgard. He gets this big ass sword, and
Who's Suitor?
Goes. Suitor.
Yeah, who is that? Surtur. Who is that?
From Thor Ragnarok, the big fire dude.
Oh, okay.
He's the god of Niflheim, I think he's one of
Nephilim.
Nephilim, yeah.
Nephilim, yeah.
Yeah, or hell, whatever,
Nephilim.
one of them. But, he's a big fire demon, and he's always brings about Ragnarok.
Got it.
In the comic books, he gets this big-ass sword, and this shit goes on for, it's a long-running, 20, 30 issues. Even the lead-up is one of the illest lead-ups, because you just see these doom, doom, doom in, one page of comics in a Thor issue, and you're like, what that's about? And then the next page, next issue, doom, doom on one page. And then after 5 issues, you realize it's him hammering, building the sword.
Oh, like the doom, like an onomatopoeia of doom.
Yeah, doom,
okay.
doom, doom. And then you realize the doom is him hammering his sword. And then he comes at Asgard, he comes at everybody. Odin dies to beat him. And that was that issue I was talking about where Loki and Thor both yell out, "Father," when he falls into the pit with him. And that shit broke my heart.
Oh, he pulled a Terminator on him? Damn.
Yeah, he falls into the fire pit with him, both with Odin
Double
and
homicide.
Sutra. Double homicide. And so the gift that keeps on giving. So they're both like, "Father," and I'm like, "Oh," as a kid. And then like a couple issues later, Loki in 364 turns Thor into a frog, so Thor won't be able to show up and at the all thing.
Princess and the Frog Thor?
Yes, Princess and the Frog Thor. So Thor won't be able to show up at the all thing, which is where they crown the new ruler of Asgard, because Loki wants to be.
So they turn him into a frog so he wouldn't show up at the function to get his rightful place on the throne.
And Thor just out here trying to function, as we know.
Wow.
And so, Thor's this frog, is trapped on Earth as a frog, and he meets these other frogs, one of whom is this frog named Puddle Gulp, right? So Puddle Gulp, is like, "Yo, fam,"
It's like a Sir Lancelot situation. That's what these names sound like.
Damn sure is, yes.
Merlin and all the rest, yeah, okay.
Because Puddle Gulp is having a problem in the Frog Kingdom. His, what's his king's name? King Glugwort is in trouble.
Oh, Puddle Gulp. Like gulping.
Yeah, it's like gulping a puddle. Puddle Gulp.
Yo, these names.
Big up Puddle Gulp. So, King Glugwort is having problems because the rats is coming at the frogs. So Puddle Gulp enlists Thor or Throg at this point, because he's like a super strong frog, to fight off the rats. Some gators get involved. It turns into a whole thing. Thor helps him out, and it's like, "Yo, I gotta get back to my peoples." When he's about to get back, he gets back to his hammer and his chariot that is driven by goats. Thor has a chariot that is driven by goats. I'm so mad this has never showed up in the films yet.
Okay. Because it's like goats. It's like, that's not really regal looking. Goats?
Yeah, it's not. It goes back to Norse mythology, why he has these goats, etc.
Okay.
But he has these goats, and they draw his chariot through time and space. And in the comics, he's always flying his chariot around, and the goats. In fact, the goats are talking to him as Puddle Gulp. Anyway.
So many drugs. So many drugs.
He's trying to get onto his chariot and get back to Asgard, and the rats come running back up on him like, "Yo, son, you did that when you was with your boys, but what's good now?"
Yeah.
So my man has like 2 pages of struggle. I literally 2 pages they spent on this of him trying to pick up this hammer as a frog. Finally picks it up and transforms into a 6-foot-tall frog man, Throg, Thor with the hammer. I mean, he doesn't need to make any work of the rats after that. Flies back to Asgard and serves Loki as Throg.
So kind of like a cousin of Beta Ray Bill.
Well, Beta Ray Bill is actually in these issues. Beta Ray, Beta Ray Bill is
kind
going
of amphibious looking thing.
This is all going on, and this all comes from the mind of Walter Simonson, who is one of the legends. Me and you met him at Comic-Con a few years back. He is a legendary, incredible artist and an incredible human being. Him and his wife, Louise Simonson, are just 2 of the dopest people in comics. They're both writers and artists, and just both dope human beings. So I just want to shout them out. And it's so funny because later on they added on to this. They went and added on to Puddle Gulp because he's actually a human who is transformed into a frog. Later on, he gets a sliver of Mjolnir himself and becomes his own fraud Thor type thing. And they reveal that Puddle Gulp's real name before he was a human, when he was a human, is Simon Walterson, a flip on Walter Simonson.
I love it.
I love it because Walter Simonson is like, first of all, I mean, the shit he was doing, like that doom page. Yeah. And then he has this like one issue where Thor fights the Midgard serpent, and every page is a splash page. So it's every page of these giant big battles of Thor smashing this serpent. It's sick.
I see in later stories that at one point a sliver of Mjolnir is transformed into a miniature version of Mjolnir and granted to Puddle Gulp, like your boy, and they call it Frognir.
Yeah, so that way, it's like Marvel will come up with these real weird ideas like a fraud Thor, And then they don't want to make Thor a frog again. But they're like, we got to keep that going some way. And so that's how, this comes about.
We're all over the animal kingdom in this episode, man.
Oh my God. But yeah, shout out to, I'm just glad that we can shout out Walter Simonson like that.
Absolutely.
Look him up, Google this man. It was like, it just kills me what some of these comic artists were doing. When you look at their shit should be in museums blowing up somewhere. And they're doing like 22 of these a month. You know what I mean? Like 22 things that should be in a museum, 22 piece, works of art a month.
It's a lot, man. I told you, lots of drugs, man.
Lots of drugs for Thor.
Ben, let's talk about your homie.
Do we have to?
She's a mess. Ravonna Renslayer, but played by the incredible Gugu and Mbatha Raw. But Ravonna, no, girl, no.
No. And like I said last week, maybe week before last, I was never team Ravonna. Like, I love Gugu. I am team Gugu in anything.
Just a second ago, you said, prune me, Ravonna, prune me.
Look, whatever Gugu wants.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Let's keep it real here. But, I am team John Walk It Out. I am team Wayward Hayward to this day. I was on Team Ravonna. I told y'all from the gate.
So tell the truth, you were on Team Ravonna.
Yes, just this Gugu, the pretty privileged one out. What do you want me to do?
But what is her deal, Ben? Because
I don't know.
On the one hand, I'm like, is she still protecting the TVA? But then she keeps trying to set up Sylvie, but she also wants to learn the truth. Like, which one is it?
She's
Uchiwali
a goddamn liar. I can't mess with this woman. If she does turn out to be Loki, I would not be surprised anymore because she is a horrible, horrible liar.
She's a terrible liar, but also it's just like, fam, choose a side. Like, she's just so she's.
I hate that. See, that's what I don't like. I like confidence. I got enough wishy-washy in myself. I don't need it in nobody else. So,
right.
But
yeah,
I will say that her life was being threatened by Sylvie. So she's like, I gotta do what I gotta do. I'm out here trying to function. Once again, everybody in this is just trying to function, and along come these wild ass Lokis effing it up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you know what? I will give you that simply because they did have that conversation in that pizza car, Mobius and Sylvie, when they do basically confront each other. Like, Sylvie's like, y'all niggas was chasing me through time, all the, and so Mobius is like, we was just doing what we had to do. He's like, and what about you? You was annihilating people, so. Mm-hmm. I'll give you that, but my God.
Like, that's the thing, and I know because in a second you gonna big up your girl, Hunter B-15. Monster.
But
Hunter B-15 was out there sticking people with the stick. No problem.
No problem.
Hold that.
But it was a necessity because it was also predicated on a lie. The only reason why I give Ravonna, why I'm pressing Ravonna,
she was just doing her job.
But no, Ravonna knew the truth at some point. Ravonna knew I think even before the whole C20 situation, she knew semblances of the truth. And then still decided to continue on the path of, I'm going to be the TVA super servant. So that's why I'm just like, that's why I press Ravonna more than I would press anybody else.
I feel you on that, but I don't know what Ravonna knows anymore.
True.
Because this woman seemed like a blind fool at several points in this episode, just trying to make it through the next minute. She did not seem to have much more going for her than that. So I don't even know no more, dog. I don't know. I think all that theremin, all that thereminister society was in front.
All the theremin music got to her head.
Yeah, looking all cool in her office, sipping tea.
Them wavelengths scrambled her brain.
Yeah, I think she mad struggle right now because she was struggling. I lost all faith. Like, I was just like, what is wrong with you? You so whack.
This last thing about Ravonna, and I know we wanted to avoid shipping, especially shipping her and Mobius, but the recap part of this beginning of this episode, it very distinctly made it a point to replay that scene where she's talking with Mobius in her office, and she says friendships like they're uncommon. That could mean a million different things, but that could also potentially mean that now that we know that TVA people are just variants snatched from their timelines, were they together at some point in the past? And like I said, we don't know what Ravonna really knows, but what if she knows? Like, to me, she knows a lot about Mobius.
What we do know is that Gugu and Mbatha has said that this series is an origin story for Ravonna. So the Ravonna that we know from the comics, where she is entangled with Kang, has not happened yet. So this could be her, or like I said, I think she's pretty much as clueless and mind warped or mind wiped like the rest of them.
Okay.
Because, I think she might have had some, I don't think it's with Mobius. I think it's something with Kang. I think she might be from that future where Kang is from and remembers none of this,
Could be.
Yeah, because she seems so clueless.
She seems so clueless, but it's also just, but the fact that because she's coming at my girl Sylvie, I'm just like, man, you got to get on the winning team. Like, this ain't it. So,
and that was my thing with her too this episode. I was so tired of it. I was like, oh, dude, and like when she's like, did you have any? Like, I hate when she switches to that. Like, I didn't remember nothing. And did you have any memories? Like,
she's just being rude.
Yeah, you so weak. Because you already got served. Like you can't. It's like when people getting dropped by 50 and they still on the court talking mess. She makes one little dunk and she like, look what I did. Down by 50.
Mobius. The M stands for Mother Effin' Mobius, played by Owen Wilson, is alive. Very happy that. I told you I thought that wasn't the last we was going to see of it. I know you said the same. Yes. But even before seeing him in some Ed credit on a jet ski, I'm just glad we saw him in person helping Sylvie and the rest. We see him save Sylvie in Skinny's pizza delivery car with a little hula girl on the dash. I didn't want to mention this because this is the one thing that was not in my notes, but I did see it online that they said if you squint hard, it could be the police pizza delivery truck from Toy Story. I'm like, all right.
I thought it might be a car, but it's not one of the cars that what's the name had shrunk down in Ant-Man 2. Remember when he opened up remember when what's my man chose the one car, but he opened up this case full of cars.
Yeah,
and then he chose. Yeah, who knows? I don't know. Whatever.
When he's given the stolen 10 pad from Sylvie, when they said, "What you gonna do, fam? When you get back to TVA?" He said he's gonna burn it down. I like that.
I need that one. That's like I need that gift stored in my phone. Burn it down. Yeah, with the smile.
And Ravonna had previously said nothing ever comes back from the void, but it looks like Mobius ass is. So, and he's about to take. He's about to shut him down, open up shop for real.
Rest in peace, DMX. I just want to say that when he drove up and she hopped in the car, imagine seeing that in a packed theater. Like,
oh yeah.
But you wouldn't be able to hear what he said. I mean, because I could barely hear what he said, and it was just me and I'm saying,
It's like, it's Mobius!
Oh man, I was so hyped. I love Mobius. I can't lie. Eating it.
Let's give kudos to Hunter B-15, played by the Wunmi Mosaku.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, free my nigga B-15 till it's backwards. Like, that's unjust imprisonment. Like, nah, fam, free her. Yeah, man, you can say what you want to say.
She was a cop.
Yeah, she was, but you see what happened. Just like Mobius, when she found out the truth, what did she do? She went to try to fix things and try to do better. Unlike Ravonna, who when she found out the truth, she just kept the status quo up.
Ravonna still has not had her brain wiped. Mobius is, like friends with the rest of these people. So,
okay, so you're still leaning, you still giving her.
No, I give her no credit. No, I give her nothing.
You're saying, well, maybe Ravonna still doesn't have her whole.
I'm just trying to explain why she was making such ridiculous moves because I'm giving her no credit, for the moves she was making.
After she's told by C20 the truth, and after it's corroborated several times by other people, and like I said, we don't know how many times Ravonna has been told this or found out, and the same woman who supposedly has access to very classified level details, files through Miss Minutes. You're telling me that she's still all scrambled up?
I don't know. Look, I'm not defending this woman. Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Okay.
I got nothing to do with it. I am team Stan and Sylvie. Friendship ended with Ravonna. Stand for Sylvie now.
Well, Wunmi, like Mobius, is very adept now, it seems, at reading people. And while she's talking to Ravonna, she figures out that Ravonna really just wants to know who's behind the TVA like everybody else. And you have another note here, Ben?
I don't think Ravonna knows what she want to know, actually. But anyway, yes, B-15 energy cage, while it's red and not that golden yellow that we saw in Thor: The Dark World, it highly resembles, even like when you look closely at the energy field, the little runes that seem to be appearing on it resemble the same cage that Loki was in Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah.
So, once again, who would be behind the TVA and who would have access to Norse technology?
I mean,
all signs.
It's too perfect.
It's too perfect.
Let's round out our character list with Miss Minutes, who none of us trust, including the fan fam. Nobody's with it. And you see it in very clear day how she's like helping Ravonna, or seems like they on the side of the TVA. She comes up with this lie about there being a void spacecraft, and she's just saying that to buy time for the Minutemen to come catch them in that courtroom. Ravonna mentions the spaceship that's designed to withstand the temporal void. I do believe that there are such types of ships or type of vehicles in the MCU.
The ones you see flying in the end.
Right, it has to be those the ones flying, as you say, around that castle at the end or whatever. But who knows what's really going on? And one question I have specifically about Menace is when Ravonna brings her up, like after Ravonna's done chiding B-15, she brings up or summons Miss Minutes, and when she does, Miss Minutes pops out the tempad and says, "Hey y'all." Now I was questioning, like, why did she say "hey y'all" when she's greeting Ravonna? Like, it's like she's talking, like when you say y'all, you're usually talking to more than one person, or even in a sense the audience. So I'm like, who's y'all when she said that?
She's also Southern as fuck.
Do Southerners say y'all to one person?
Southerners say y'all all the time, dog. Y'all,
yeah, but to address one person, y'all is plural. Y'all over there, not you over there.
What are they going to say when there's no you for y'all, though? That's the thing. Like, we don't have a word for you. Hey, you. You don't say that in the South. You say, hey, y'all.
Okay. If it is a Southern lingo thing, then I'm corrected.
She's super Southern, too. She beyond Southern.
Yeah, I just thought it was strange that you use a plural to talk about one person. So I'm like, who's she talking to?
What were you on that night? Little that green. Who's she talking to?
Whatever. And then finally,
no, I feel you, but I think
it makes sense.
But nothing Miss Minutes does either makes sense. Like,
makes sense. You're right.
This motherfucker over here talking about is taking time. You're a computer. Fuck up, like.
She said she's alive and she's not. She says she's there or she's real and she's not real. She's
lying upon lies.
Some manifestation. Who knows?
It's gonna be so funny when they reveal Loki is doing the voice of Miss Minutes this whole time. Like he's got like a voice modulator on.
Please.
Oh my God, that's gonna be so great.
Oh God. Finally, we have our Easter eggs, inspiration, and music of the episode.
My turn.
This is. I mean, if you all can see our notes, this is the majority of the notes. It's like so many pages, but we're gonna run through them as efficiently as possible. Mm-hmm. And we put these in we kind of try to categorize them. But as far as the things that don't really fit in the category, we have as we first get to the void these weird. I don't know what they are. These weird headless bird type creatures, but they have a floating dot as a head. And they have like an iridescent body or feathers, and they have 4 stumpy legs, and they're making this weird chirping noise. But I did notice that the number of birds you see on screen correspond with the number of characters on screen typically. So as you see like the groups walking by, like the first time you see them is like 5 of them walking, and there's 5 of those birds. Then like later on when it's just Sylvie and Loki, just 2 people, there's only 2 birds. You see that? I don't even know what these things are, what they signify, but I just noticed.
I thought they looked like yet another Kang throwaway because they're purple and blue like Kang, part of Kang's costume.
They were very weird. I was like, oh, maybe they're dodos. And then I just saw that it was just a floating like head or sphere or whatever it was.
There was a weird thing like that, but it wasn't a bird, but it did have a floating spearhead in Kieran Gillen's Young Avengers.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's horrifying.
Okay.
It's fucking awful. But it was not a bird. It was horrifying. What it was.
But I can tell, like at the end, when you just think if you just to make it very simple, these are things that shouldn't exist as decreed by the TVA, and that's why they're here.
Pretty much. Let's get into the good shit.
Yeah. Did you want to mention before the good shit? You want to mention the music?
Oh yeah. In the Boiling Alley, the song Wonderwall is playing, but it's an alternate version of the original. It's by a band Mike Flowers Pops. Never heard of them before, but it's an alternate version of Wonderwall by who's that? Green Day, right? Today's gonna be the day. You didn't realize you don't know Wonderwall?
I know Wonderwall, but I don't think it's Green Day. It's by Oasis.
Oh, whatever. All of them do sound alike.
And yes, to Benjamin's point, there's lots of good stuff. So this category is all of the items that litter the landscape of the void that come from the comics or the MCU.
Yes.
And I apologize if I'm pronouncing this wrong.
It's Queen.
Queen?
Queen, yes.
Queen?
Queen,
Is it
yeah.
Queen or Cheng or Ching?
It's probably Queen because it's a reference to Kang.
Queen. Okay.
Yeah.
So we see in the opening shot when the camera's going through the ruins of the city, over on the right there is a building that is named Queen Enterprises rather, and that is the name of a company in the comics to which Stark Industries sold the old Avengers Towers.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he sold the old Avengers Towers, but Queen Enterprises turns out to be the organization. I guess it's either funded by Kang from the future, or it turns into Kang's, future organization once he's in the future.
And then you also see on the left side, like almost right before it, there's another building that says like King Park.
Yep.
So, and again, that's to your point. These are probably both Kang references.
Yeah, definitely. It's just showing, once again, red herrings to make everyone, oh, look, it's Kane's world. No.
You see what appears to be like a old sunken ship. It could be this is Disney, so it could be a Pirate of the Caribbean ship, or they call it Caribbean. Could be the ship of Theseus, tongue in cheek. But again, this has nothing to do with WandaVision, so it could be anything.
Yeah.
You do see. I thought this was cool. You do see the Dark Aster, the spaceship that it looks like kind of a twisted accordion, and it's all like ruined in the ground. But the Dark Aster was a 3-mile wide ship that belonged to Ronan the Accuser. It was under his command, and it was destroyed on Xandar in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep. We also see the Sphinx with the nose still attached, with the black, beautiful nose still attached to it.
And again, this was the black conspiracy theorist coming out, with the Kufi. I was just like, oh, so the one without the nose is still here, but the one with the nose is in the void where it's not supposed to be. They're trying to erase our history.
Yeah,
is that
definitely.
what it is?
That's straight up. Shout out to Kate and Michael. That was straight up, one of the blacker moments.
Was that really what that was?
Yeah, that was definitely one of the blacker moments of the series right there. That was like, oh, yeah, here's the real.
Okay, what could it also be related to?
It's also could be related to Rama Tut, who is a character in Fantastic Four and other Marvel comic books, who is yet another incarnation of Kang, because Kang is a time traveler. At one point goes and fakes that he is an ancient Egyptian and hangs out in ancient Egypt and basically takes over ancient Egypt because he has all this technology from the future.
Okay, we see this happening a lot.
Yep.
We have the legendary yellow helicopter with Thanos written on the side. And also there's like a bomb or some type of bomb right next to it. That's a very famous helicopter.
Yes. Even made famous by a certain DJ Ben Amin tweet from last year, where I was explaining to people that the MCU, because people always make this, comparison like, the MCU should be more like the comics, and they'll post some gritty image, some, Wolverine chopping somebody's head off or some dumb mess like that. And I'm like, the comics are as ridiculous. They're both sides. It has all of this. And one of my favorites is from the Spidey Super Stories, which is basically like one of them stories that was written for some corporation. Like Marvel used to do these Hostess cupcake ads where the heroes were eating Hostess cupcakes. And so it wasn't really canon, but it features Thanos flying around in a helicopter with Thanos written on the side of it. So whether or not it's canon, it is
that's the version, and that's the version of Thanos that has the down bad version of Nebula, right? From I feel like
that's the version of Thanos.
Is similar.
Yeah, that's the one we know and love from the comics. But our Thanos, and even with the down bad version of Nebula, does not say drat and finders keepers.
Apparently, who was he chasing? He was chasing somebody for
a little kid for the Cosmic Cube. Cosmic
Cube,
and he's also
before that he was chasing a hero, and then
Hellcat,
right.
and Spider-Man. And then at the end of it, as people see in this tweet, if they follow me, I just retweeted it recently because it's so great. Spider-Man is mad because Hellcat takes all the shine, and Mary Jane, Spidey's girlfriend, tells him, "Can the corn, Peter." And
the way the language used is just it's just out of control.
But the funny thing about this is written by Jim Salicrup, and Jim Salicrup is a legendary Spider-Man writer. So it's not like it was written by
the language of the time, I should say.
Yeah, and also he was writing this for little kids for the language of the time. So it's gonna have stuff like "Can the corn, Peter," It's gonna, little kids are gonna be like, "Yay!" So, but Jim Salicrup is a legend. So this is now canon in the MCU, And that's just so funny to me that the TVA once again was like, oh my God, this nigga's over here building a helicopter. Get this shit the fuck. Like,
yo. Kate Herron does mention this helicopter in the interview that you will see you will see first if you're on our Patreon, patreon.com/forallnerds.
Yep.
Then, I mean, there were a bunch of like statue heads littered across the void. Tell me about some of these.
All right. Well, the round heads that we see them walking by that are like buried halfway through it. No idea what that's about.
Okay.
Random heads. Okay.
They kind of look like Vision, kind of not.
Kind of not doubtful. There's a statue in real life in Canada that looks kind of like them, but yeah. What we do know or we do see, some of the ill shit that you will see if you pay close attention to this episode, is Red Skull's actual little flight ship that is from the first Captain America film. They walk by it. It's buried in the ground. It has wings. It looks like an old World War I plane, but kind of ill. But that was in the Captain America First Avenger. Early on in one of the big overhead shots, we see Yellow Jacket's helmet from Ant-Man, from the first Ant-Man film. And if y'all remember, at the end of Ant-Man, Yellow Jacket's equipment malfunctions on him, and he shrinks away to nothing. Which leads to this theory that we are in one of the microverses right now, that the Void is in a microverse. Because if you go back to the Ant-Man, they talk about the quantum verse and all that. And they call it the quantum verse in the movie.
Quantum realm, yeah.
Yeah, it's called the microverse in the comics. That's legal reasons. Anyway, quantum verse. And so because of that, they're like the quantum verse is just outside of time and space, just like what they said the TVA does. So it could be that we shrunk down so small that his helmet appears big. All right? So that's why we're there. And also things are just various sizes because it looks cool.
Is that also like that giant shield that's on the ground? Like,
you think it's a shield? I'm going with it was a spaceship.
Spaceship? Oh,
yeah,
hell,
yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, round spaceship. Like the classic Martian spaceship. But I just also think things are different sizes because it looks cool. There's a shield helicarrier buried halfway in the ground in the background. It has the Hydra logo on it. So that comes from a world where Hydra took over, whatever, where they stopped disguising themselves and just became Hydra instead of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, Hydra had already infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. For various points in the movie. So, like you said, what if they actually won in that point? So.
Yep, and just said, fuck it, we're Hydra. We ain't S.H.I.E.L.D. no more. Early on, when we're flying over the whole city of New York, we see Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum over, his home. You know that place. The one that made me stop and scream was this one, y'all. Was the head of the Living Tribunal sitting there. It's a stone head. It's a three-faced head. Yeah. One of the heads, the front-facing head, has its face cloaked up to here with his
cloth.
Cloth over it, and his nose and mouth are open. The other face is full open, and then the other face is like we can't really see it. But it is clearly the Living Tribunal. We talked about the Living Tribunal last week when we were thinking it was kind of a shout out with the judges. The timekeepers. But the Living Tribunal is this giant being. He's golden usually. His head, he has no neck because his head just floats above his body. And it, more likely than he, it's this giant being that is the Living Tribunal. It judges the universe. And so it's this three-headed judge. And when it's worse than TVA, like, when it will come along and just erase entire realities, everything to make things right. But it's one of them things where it's like, it won't interfere most times. Like when Thanos is out, erasing half the universe, it's like, it takes something of just extreme, like this is messing up the base order of the universe for the Living Tribunal to show up. So for it to be dead is something.
It's major.
Or hopefully that's just a statue, whatever, who knows.
I thought it was just a statue.
Yeah,
but it's also like, where would that statue be? Like, what? Yeah, like, why would that statue have been erected?
There it is. Who is paying tribute to the Living Tribunal?
Yeah.
Yep.
In the scene before you see Frog, or as you're seeing Frog Thor, you notice that there's a bunch of lunch trays and a version of Mjolnir under the ground. As I was sitting here thinking, I'm like, well, where would you see lunch trays? You see it in schools, right? Like maybe this is some school that wasn't supposed to be there, and maybe that's why Throg or whatever it was in that jar, because like that's how, like when you're studying animals in school or amphibians in school, that's when you're about to dissect them and stuff. So also, maybe it has something to do with that.
I would say just from the TVA, but everything you just said
could be just from the TVA, but
yeah, everything from the TVA, like lunch trays and Throg.
In the Loki Avengers underground lair, they're they are saucing on that Roxy wine boxed Pinot Noir. That's probably from Roxcart. Someone made it over, or yeah, again, another product that's not supposed to exist, because we see that as a running gag through this show. Like products that are not supposed to exist, or Ben Amin mentioned about that high C that was apparently disgusting, shouldn't exist, and that's why it got zapped to the void.
Yep.
We see giant vines and flowers in the bowling alley. Any references there you want to mention, or not really?
I doubt it.
Not doubt it. Okay, we'll move on.
I ain't gonna be that reach. I ain't going for that one.
We see the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yep.
We talked about the giant heads, and also we made the joke earlier about Dom Toretto from Fast and Furious. But when Mobius and the Lokis are hiding out before heading to Alioth, they're sitting in a barbershop called Dom's Cuts.
Can you please get me a screenshot of that? Because I didn't notice that.
Yeah. It's very quick. It's literally half a second, but it's and partially obscured because it's a glass storefront sign, and some of it's broken, but it says Dom Cuts. And I knew it was a barbershop because I had that red and blue swirly thing.
Yep. Well, give me a shot of that and a shot of them sitting in there so I can put Dom in there with them.
You got it. You got family is everything. And they were talking about. Listen.
Look,
it's
the power of family.
The power of family
overcomes anything, folks.
All right, and the last section of our Easter eggs and stuff, the category here is the real world items and references to real people that got dropped into the void. The first we see when they're zooming in past that ruined city and they're going down to Loki, there's some subway cars and other stuff, and there's a bus on the left, and very faintly there is a name in script on the bus on the side, like an ad. And it says Callum Ross. And that's actually the name of an editor that works on the Loki show. So I thought that was a really cute shout out. You also see the license plate, I believe it's the license plate of the pizza car.
Yes.
Okay.
Of Mobius's car.
Of Mobius's car. It says GRNW, the number 1 and D. If you look at that as a word, it seems to spell out Gruenwald. Which is a shout out to Mark Gruenwald. And Ben, you already explained who Mark Gruenwald is. You want to give a quick
as always, because you always got to shout out Mark Gruenwald anytime you can. Mark Gruenwald was an editor-in-chief of Marvel. He was known as the continuity god. So basically, he was the TVA. If you needed any question about continuity, he could just tell you, oh, this happened in this issue, and then after that, in this issue, this would happen. And over here in Fantastic Four, they mentioned that issue. So you need to make sure you reference all 3 of those when you write your comic.
That's God's status.
That was Mark Gruenwald. And as a kid, once again, he was like one of the editors-in-chief, and he was also a writer. He wrote one of my favorite comics. Look it up, Squadron Supreme. Well worth reading at any time. That's a Comics Like Hop Shout. And I just love this because Mark is just one of them unsung heroes in comics. And as a kid, he was like it was him and Jim Shooter who were my Stan Lees because they were both like the big editors at the time. And Squadron Supreme is fucking such a mind-blowing comic to me as a kid that I was always like, this dude's a god. Yeah, Squadron Supreme is one of them comics like I put up there with a Watchmen, anything. You know, it's like it shows you comics can do this. You know? And like what if heroes really acted like this? And it was like the first comic that I'd read where it's like, what if heroes took on real world problems and how would they really do it? Yeah. And what would happen? And so I'm a little kid reading this, and I'm like, yo, this shit nuts. And people are fucking in it and all this other stuff. So I'm like, yo, this shit great. You know? But shout out to Mark Gruenwald. I just love anytime he's mentioned because he's so dope, and I love that they're paying tribute. And the character Mobius in the comics is based on his look. Like, there's multiple Mobiuses in the comic, and they all look like Mark Gruenwald. Yes.
So very important figure in Marvel history. We have a sign, a very rusted sign that says Wrightsfield Theater. Yeah. It's a movie theater, and the marquee says Oswald and the Martians. Oswald refers to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, which was a character that Walt Disney created a year before Mickey Mouse. Yeah. So why is it in the void? Because it doesn't matter. But there's something weird about that, Ben.
Yeah, and also because that particular episode, Oswald and the Martians, the short film or whatever you want to call it, contains some alternate reality references and general weirdness, just like this episode. So you can actually watch that on YouTube. Go Google it. It's dope animation. I watched it. Really fire.
Along with the mention of Ricefield Theater, apparently there's also a point on the, like, when they're back in the TVA, there's a little ticker. It mentions Ricefield, PA with the time and date stamp next to it. It could be a riff of, and again, these tickers display Nexus events that are happening. So in that year, in real life anyway, there in Ricefield, PA, the Colombian Ricefield Bridge, which was considered the longest covered bridge in the country, collapsed due to ice and storm damage. So, again, another catastrophe, Nexus event. What do they call it? What's the
Nexus event.
Apocalypse type of situation? Yeah. Apocalyptic situation. There's also that when I mentioned that giant ship that got dropped down in the middle of that valley, the USS Eldridge was an actual real life ship. It's called the Philadelphia Experiment. This ship was built in a Philadelphia naval shipyard to help fight Nazis in World War I. It supposedly had experimental tech on the ship, like cloaking technology. And supposedly they tried to use it, and instead of it doing what's supposed to do, it transported its vessel someplace else. And at least what Loki, the show, had did with D.B. Cooper, they integrated this right into the mythology of the show, that when this ship disappeared, it actually disappeared into the void. So R.I.P. to all those shipmen. Sorry.
Massive L's. Like,
massive L.
It was like, where are we? What the fuck? You know, and then it was over. Yeah.
Yeesh. Yeah. All right, man, let's go with the rest of these.
Oh, Jesus. All right, Oak Island. Oak Island appears on the screen in the beginning of the episode, that same screen with the ticker when the thing is flipping over. We see Oak Island. Oak Island refers to the actual Oak Island where, since the 18th century, people have claimed that there is a treasure buried there by some pirates or whatever. It might contain the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh, they going in. Okay.
Yeah.
They are dragging it. Okay.
Yeah. So that's basically yet another of these urban legends, just like the D.B. Cooper, B. Dalton one that we mentioned before. And there's another urban legend. I mean, there's several in this episode. Another one is a Polybius, which is this video game that we see in Loki's kingdom when they're all sitting down there. Polybius is sitting in the background.
Yeah.
And Polybius is this urban legend about this video game that was created by the government and put into arcades across the nation to like study people and also, influence them with like mind control and stuff. And then they all were taken out of these arcades and never heard from again. But people have claimed for years to have actually played this game, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's just all these urban legends that we see, and they're all, being used in here. The last one that's not really an urban legend, but also relates to Polybius, is that Space Mission pinball game machine we see. Space Mission is a game, but it was only a board game. It was never a pinball game or a video game. Woo!
Okay. So I actually seen things that said it really was a pinball game. So it was some game of some sort. So.
So we're, fuck it.
Yeah. And
I said fuck them.
Finally, the last point in the credits, we see again those black and white photos in the files. They are now been changed to those of boastful Loki, classic Loki, Kid Loki, Alligator Loki, and President Loki.
Yes. And my dumbass sat there thinking, because when they were flipping the pages, when they show the pages of where he signed his last
what? Like
statement.
he signed the last thing he said? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they've added to that.
It's still what? It still just says what?
Yeah, my eyes thought he said my pleasure, and I sat there rewinding and pausing several times. Yeah.
Got to get off that good tree, sir.
Look, never that. It is green. I'm on the long con with that one, boy. Call me green Loki. I don't know. Weed Loki.
Gosh, thank you all so very much for sticking with us in this episode 5 review of Loki on Disney Plus. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time. We appreciate the support and all the love that we've been receiving. Thank you to everyone. Thank you. By the time you hear this, it'll make more sense. But thank you to everyone who's been retweeting us and posting about us, about our exclusive interview with Kate Herron, the director of Loki. We appreciate it. As I said at the top, make sure you're doing a few things for us. Make sure, and also didn't say this at the top, I'm going to add on. Make sure you're following us. Follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/forallnerds. We go live at 1 p.m. on Mondays for Loki. We're back to 1 p.m. I know we changed times for a little bit, but hey, man, 1 p.m. works the best. And make sure you are following us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow For All Nerds. That's how you get to listen to Views from the 616, as well as all of our amazing podcasts that are yet to be produced, but you know they're coming. We also want to make sure you are following us on the socials. I'm at Tatiana King. He's at DJ Ben Amin. And obviously, we're For All Nerds on the Twitters and the IGs. And as I said at the top, make sure you are hitting us up on that TeePublic page to get your merch, to get your Views from the 616 tees, masks, cup, phone cases, whatever you like, it's there. tpublic.com/stores/forallnerds. You can also support us through our Patreon, patreon.com/forallnerds, where you get special privileges for being a Patreon fam. Ben, did I miss anything?
I don't know, but I just want to shout out twitch.tv/forallnerds. Even if you already said it, I'm going to do it again. And shout out to everybody in that chat. We are live every Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. That's right, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We got something special for you this week. We'll be live Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And Tuesday as well at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, because Wednesday is the finale of Loki. So we are finishing up strong over here. Mm-hmm. So Monday and Tuesday, 1 p.m. EST, twitch.tv/forallnerds. Be there.